Momodou's story. There is a boy whose father left his occupation of farming from a village called Kataba in the region of Sabat Sanjal.
That's my story. I'm Momodou Sabally, the son of the late landing Sabally and the late Ajakadi Jamme.
And migrated to Banjul in search of greener pastures. He settled in the city and got hired as a dock worker at the Banjul port. His wife was to join him later, and after renting in Banjul on many streets like James, Senegal, they settled at 84 Old Perseverance Street and had a son named Momodou. The boy grew up in the streets of Banjul.
I did my early childhood in Banjul, going to Dara Paablai at Primate Street, doing the usual hunting gese. I think the most prominent groups at the time were Rainbow and Fanti, and later came Black December.
Playing games and doing the customary halal belugan, and had fun around the street kin called Pim Pim.
We relocated to Lamin, Combo North, which is currently in the constituency we call Busumbala constituency.
He enjoyed the childhood in Banjul, spiced up, but his fun was to be cut short when his foster father decided they should relocate to the village of Lamin, Combo North. In Lamin, he attended nursery, primary and high schools under very tough conditions, including going to school with an empty belly, sometimes, and using melted candles mixed with cooking oil for his body lotion. His mother, who used to sell porridge in Banjul, now shifted to selling vegetables and other condiments at the market at Lamin.
We relocated in Lamin in 1981, where I went to nursery school, an old abandoned church in Lamin Sanchaba, and later proceeded to St. Peter's Primary School in Lamin under the tutelage of the late John P. Bojang. I grew up under that environment of scholarship, going to school, going to Dara behind the market in Lamin, where the new mosque is now, the new central mosque. I also did the Karanta with an old man from Badibu called Fajam Jamanti Jamme of blessed memory. We did what kids do there. We did the hunting, we did the kankurang, we went to Bereto to swim, especially during Ramadan. There is another river off Wayeto called Sitaba. We played football. We had a team called United Stars, a three-tier team where my elder brother, the late Ibrahim Sabally, played in Team A, I was in Team B, and my younger brothers like Shirif Diba and Bakari Marong played in Team C. So we played with other teams in Yundum, where we had people like Bora and Skanda playing, and in Mandinaring, where you had people like Lamin Sise LC and Shorty. We played against people in Banjulunding, where we had people like Bobby and Alaji Fai and others. So this was my background as a child in Lamin. When I finished school in primary school in 1987, because I had to skip grade 5 thanks to the recommendation of the then headmaster John P. Bojang. I have to shout out some of my teachers like C.D. Bojang, Mr. Bass, John Bass, Kinta, Miss Bayan.
Yet he strived to stay in school even though he never had a complete set of textbooks. When he finished his O-levels in 1992 from St. Peter's Technical High School, his mother insisted that he must get a job so that she could enjoy the fruits of her labor. This was because among his mother's 5 children, he was the only one to have finished high school.
I later went to St. Peter's Technical High School when Antres Ndongjata, Honorable, was the principal, where I did a plethora of subjects, including physics, mathematics, applied electricity. Of course, Bible knowledge, which was one of my favorite subjects. We were being taught by Father David Jaju at the time. A beautiful environment where we grew up learning playing football and basketball alongside people like Ibrahim Andong, former Interior Minister Emeba. We were together in a very beautiful environment where there was peaceful coexistence between religions and tribes. I grew up playing soccer, and other games with Jola kids, with Papel kids, with Manoj kids, with Balanta kids, with Mankind kids, literally. I can say the cultural heads at that time were Malafi Samate, who was a legend in terms of our circumcision rights, and the late Burama Baji, who was the chief circumciser at the time, the Ngaman we called him. It was an oasis of diversity in harmony and peace.
Momodou did all his early schooling in Lamin, located in what is now called Busumbala constituency. His nursery school was an old church in Lamin, Sanchaba, from where he proceeded to St. Peter's Primary School, commonly known as Lamin School, then headed by the late John P. Bojan. When he finished at St. Peter's High School, he proceeded to Gambia High School for his A-levels. After 2 years of battling with physics and applied maths with a modicum of economics, Momodou finished at the top of his class. But there was a problem. It was difficult to get a job, and there was no university in Banjul.
I finished high school in 1992 and then went to Gambia High School, where I did my A-levels in math, statistics and economics, where I finished off as the most outstanding student.
A year later, the AFRPC government under the Lieutenant Yahya A.J.J. Jammeh opened the doors to university education in the Gambia. Momodou was among the first to be enrolled.
In 1994, I was to later enroll the University Extension Program in 1995 alongside my colleagues at the time, like Nani Juara, current MD of Naweki, Yankuba Dabo, current Commissioner General GRA, current Environment Minister Lamin Diba, among others. In 1999, I graduated as valedictorian with a major in mathematics and a minor in economics. I was to later work at Central Bank as a research economist, and then move on to the Ministry of Finance around 2010 as National Budget Director. Within this framework, I was able to do professional training at institutions like Harvard University's John F. Kennedy School of Government, where I did professional training in public finance management, the IMF Institute in Washington, D.C., and the West African Institute for Financial and Economic Management, YFM, Lagos, Nigeria. I had the opportunity to serve as a member of the ECOWAS Budget Admin and Finance Committee. They call it CAF.
He was to write the story of his education at Gambia's first university program in his trailblazing memoir, Jangi Jollof. With a degree in mathematics and a minor in economics, Momodou got a job at the Central Bank of the Gambia as a research economist, a job he held from 1999 to 2009, when the country's finance ministry requested his services to become the director of budget. By then, he had been shortlisted for a job at the UN headquarters in New York, but his patriotic zeal and the desire for practical knowledge and a sense of balance in his profession as a macroeconomist led him to settle for the budget job at the Ministry of Finance. He has undergone extensive professional training at the IMF Institute, the Central Bank of Switzerland, Central Bank of England's Centre for Central Banking Studies, the Kennedy School of Government, and Harvard University, and holds a master's degree in economics from Georgia State University in the USA. Alongside his official work, the boy also found a niche in motivational writing, He has a deep feeling that the potential of African youths is grossly untapped and therefore writes motivational books and essays and also does speeches to inspire young people.
I pursued a passion that was writing. Alhamdulillah, I was able to publish a book called Jangi Jolof, a memoir on the Gambia's first university program, which I published in 2005, later developed it into a motion picture, a biopic. I did Instant Success 10 Keys to Personal Achievement and The Way to Happiness, among other books, and later established the Sabally Leadership Academy.
Perhaps one could say that the epitome so far of his writing career was his double book launched on March the 2nd, 2013, when he released For the Gambia, Living the National Anthem, and To the Gambia, The Smiling Coast, the former in prose and the latter in verse. It was on the eve of this double book launch that his fans named him the Gambia's pen. Throughout his writing, he gets inspiration mainly from his mother, who taught him the wisdom of the ages through Proverbs. His desire to make his mum proud is also a spur for his prolific writing. Perhaps it is his connection with this great woman, the late Aja Kadi Jame, that also inspires his style of writing, which is laced with local proverbs.
Has done. I am telling you, that's why I respect the particular part. And he has the know-how. By now, if Sabally is in the system, by now the economy has been floated and the development started because it's a boy of smartness.
Momodou was to be appointed Secretary General and Minister of Presidential Affairs in June 2013. A shock appointment that raised many eyebrows given his tender age of 39 to become the head of the country's civil service. The young man was unfazed. He dug in and pulled his mental plows. He was to be entrusted with even more portfolios, including Minister responsible for the civil service and Secretary General of his country's ruling party in tandem with the other portfolios.
Professor, who many of us looked up to, he is Honorable Professor Dr. Momodou Sabally. And indeed, I should say, I remember very vividly Socrates, a Greek philosopher, who once said to a young man, "Speak that I might see thee. Speak so that we might see you." And so he has spoken. The all-star sage and work of our time has spoken. The pen of the Gambia has spoken. Mr. Sabally is a humble man that many of us look up to. He is an epitome of sovereignization. He is a human dynamo. He is a colossus, a titan, an Agus Adonis admirable Christian. He is a plenipotentiary of a dawn icon. And indeed, sir, I, Omar Kande Jr., am gonna succumb to learn from your tutelage. And therefore, sir, you have got all what it takes to circumsail us to the promised land. And indeed, togetherly, we can save our motherland, the Gambia, from a state of Meticicina statism and Kankaro tribalism and epileptic nepotism to a more sound national redemption. Undoubtedly, sir, you are great.
His work accorded him the opportunity to meet and consult with world leaders, including the Egyptian President General Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov.
We have a very strong tourism industry. We are well endowed with enormous fisheries resources and other hydrocarbons. And in our search for credible and reliable partners, we believe that we could not have better strategic partners than Russia.
South African firebrand politician Julius Malema, among others. After a year and a few weeks of service in his country's cabinet, Momodou was relieved of his appointment as Secretary General and Minister of Presidential Affairs, as well as all other portfolios he was holding. He was reassigned as Minister of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology. He was later fired and detained for several months amid a long winding trial. All charges against him were later dropped by the state. While still going through this trial, he founded a youth mentorship organization called Sabally Leadership Academy, SL.
The traditional 3-day youth summer camp is organized by the Sabally Leadership Academy to enable young people participate in interactive sessions of ideas and experiences. Day 2 of the camping was devoted to the benefits of preserving nature. Upon arrival at the Day 2 of Sabally's Leadership Academy Summer Youth Camp, we were welcomed by beaming faces of young inquisitive boys and girls ready to be inspired by invited intellectuals produced by the Gambia. Still sticking to their curriculum, spearheaded by motivational speaker Mr. Momodou Sabally, among his invitees was one of Gambia's most recommended historians, Mr. Hassum Cisse from the National Center of Arts and Culture.
Well, the theme is SLA Green Re-Emergence Camp, green representing the environment, because we've now felt the urgent need to do something to educate and inspire young people on the need to protect our natural heritage. And re-emergence because we know the country has gone through a lot of late, and there is a need for institutions like the SLA to talk to young people and inspire them to rise above whatever happened in the past in terms of personal, social, or community issues that happened that were not very pleasant, to create and engender a new spirit of inspiration, hope, patriotism, and genuine, and I repeat, genuine concern for our environment.
He was later appointed managing director and editor-in-chief of the Observer Company, publishers of his country's leading newspaper. And Momodou was later appointed Director General of the Gambia Radio and Television Services in tandem with his role as Observer MD. As the Gambia prepared for the December 2016 presidential election, Momodou led his team of reporters from the state broadcaster to cover the first nomination that saw opposition leader Mama Kandeh formally present his candidature to the national election authorities. After broadcasting highlights of that event, Momodou was again picked up on the orders of state and thrown into jail with one of his reporters. 2 weeks later, the charges that were dropped against him in his previous trial were brought up again by the state. He was to spend another 2 months in detention until a High Court judge granted him bail in January 2017, bringing a close to his most recent ordeal. Still unfazed, still faithful and hopeful, Momodou went back to work on his life goals, doing private consulting as managing director of Penn's Den Consulting Limited. In addition to these roles, he continues to teach and inspire youths through his SLA programs. During his spells at the notorious Mile 2 prison, he would hold on to his holy scripture for guidance, inspiration, and succor. From the surah of the glorious morning light, he would take heart with the verses, "Your guardian Lord has not forsaken you." Momodou is not a Christian, he is a Muslim, but he holds an open mind on religion, and while he would read his Holy Quran, he would also read the Holy Bible that also gave him hope and inspiration while in prison. He repeatedly read and contemplated on Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an unexpected end." This is the wisdom about the Israelites when they were in captivity, and sure enough, Momodou never took his gaze off the radar that perpetually pointed to the promised land of freedom, hope, joy, and satisfaction. Like my grandmother would dutifully do, I end this story with the Mandinka saying, "Talin Kongorong Dong Kos." I'm glad to have told you this story, my story, for truly Maya Angelou is right. There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you. I hope this inspires you to tell your own story, for each of you has his or her own story to tell. In conclusion, I bid you to sing with me the Psalms of David. I give thanks unto the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endureth forever. Psalms 136:1.